I can't tell you how many clients overlook this or just don't want to put the time into it. And I get it. It's hard to measure.
This is the PMP Industry Insider Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome out to another episode of the PMP Industry Insider Podcast. We take a look at what is changing in the lawn and pest industries. And I don't know. This morning I reversed that. I'm on a lawn kick today, I guess. But I'm Donnie Shelton, owner of Triangle Home Services, which has Triangle Pest as well as Triangle Lawn. And with me is a Florida resident, repurposed in Jersey, I should say.
I'm identifying as a Jersey person so live in Florida most of the year, but I do have a place in Jersey on a lake, and here we are.
For tax purposes.
Yes,
no, anyway.
So anyway, hi, it's Dan Gordon. I'm with PCO Bookkeepers and M&A Specialists. We do brokerage work as well as CFO work for folks in the pest and lawn space. And we have some sponsors who like our podcast and think that we're funny. And so they continue to sponsor us. But let's talk about the first one. The busy season is in full swing. And if you want to come out stronger, there's one word you need to know, or one name you need to know. Anyway, it's Coalmarch for your digital and non-digital needs, marketing needs. And actually right now they're offering 1 month, the first month free if you, to our listeners, if you visit coalmarch.com/podcast, then you can claim that offer. If you're interested in industry specific insurance, that would be pestsure.com. They know our business, and they're actually, that's another hot area. They know our business pretty well, and so Todd Burke over there is pretty good. So give him a call. And then our other sponsor this year is Voice for Pest, and they are really good with implementing voice solutions for PCOs, using AI and whatnot. And to learn more, it would be voiceforpest.com/podcast. And if you're interested in one of our peer groups, go back and listen to episode 136. We've got a whole bunch of podcasts. We've got a facilitator, David Billingsley, who's outstanding. And we've got lots of people in those peer groups, and it's pretty fun. Now, today, we're going to talk about the biggest mistakes we see. And when I say we see, it's our guest. Our guest is Janelle Lucas, and she's a team lead for client success at Coalmarch. And she works closely with businesses to refine marketing strategy, track performance, make data-driven decisions. And just to let you know that marketing is probably the biggest conversation, or the most widely talked about thing right now with our client managers. And geez, what's working, and so it's very expensive. So anyway, I think that it couldn't be a more appropriate time. So welcome, Janelle. How was that? Did I screw
Great.
anything up? Oh, okay. Donnie, did I foul anything up? Did I forget it?
Well, here's what I'll say. Janelle,
Okay.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to have you. Dan was not reading at all, as you can tell. The only thing I have to add is for our sponsors, we really do appreciate you. Our sponsors are giving deals to our listeners, and so make sure that you claim those deals, because the bean counters will cut us off if we don't. So coalmarch.com/podcast will get you a free month, and then if you go to voiceforpest.com/podcast, that will also get you. They don't say a discount, but tell them that Dan told you that they would get a steep discount if they went on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
2 years free, 3 years free.
So Janelle, thank you for taking time to come out. And I am equally interested in this conversation, because it is certainly, obviously Dan and I sit on different sides of the fence, right? I mean, he's got tons of clients that are in our industry. I'm actually running an operational company, and then of course you guys are working with lots of companies as well on what I consider to be one of the most critical parts, which is generating leads. And so with that, can you just kind of walk us through who you are, what you do there at Coalmarch for our listeners, just so they know what's going on and kind of where you're coming from?
Yeah, like Dan mentioned, I'm on the client success team. So my day-to-day is chatting with business owners and bridging the gap between what they want to achieve and what Coalmarch has to offer. A little bit of background how I fell into marketing. It's just that I fell into it. It all started in a business development role at a small engineering firm in New Jersey that quickly turned into a mix of in house marketing and client success work. And I have a background in psychology, and that's kind of what drew me in. Marketing really blends human behavior with data, cause and effect, patterns, research. So all of that hooked me pretty quickly. And I found myself relocating to the Triangle where you are at, and Coalmarch is headquartered, Donnie. Came across a role that Coalmarch posted that felt like it was written for me, which is the role I'm in today. And it wasn't about executing the marketing. It was more about, like I mentioned, bridging the gap between what business owners are looking to achieve and what we can do for them. And spoiler alert, I got the job, and here we are nearly 4 years later.
Wow. Wow. Well, Dan,
Nice.
I think what I heard is she has a psychology degree. So, I mean, I think she
She's
could
gonna
probably, she's
be trying to
gonna,
figure you out.
I don't
So
know. Yeah. It's going to be
uh,
kind of crazy. So,
that's a project.
it is a
So
project. So,
anyway, all right, let's get into it. Let's get into some of the biggest marketing missteps, and then like kind of take a look at each one and what they mean and how pest control and lawn companies can really kind of get in front of them or start to address them. The first one that we talked about, or that we wanted to talk about, is over-reliance on one channel, which is kind of when I look at P&Ls, I see pay-per-click as this massive number and everything else just, pennies. Um, Tell us about that.
About pay per click apart
Well,
from
no, no,
just
no. Just
about
the, right. The mistake.
over-reliance on one particular channel.
yes. So what I mean by this, putting too much budget or focus
Mhm.
on a single marketing source. So the reason that that's an oversight or a mistake, in my opinion, is because consumers have more ways than ever today to find you. Advertising, Google search, AI tools now, that's fun.
Mhm.
Branding, word of mouth, it goes on and on. So if you're relying on just one source, you are very likely leaving opportunities on the table. So that's what I mean by that. And a lot of the mistakes I see in the beginning of a marketing partnership are putting too much emphasis on SEO or the website, so organic efforts, and overlooking advertising. Hey, we're just starting out. We need to build an organic presence, and we'll talk about advertising a bit later. That's a miss from my standpoint because organic traction takes time. We always say SEO is a marathon, not a sprint. And so if you're training for that marathon and you're trying to gain organic rankings, it sometimes takes 6 months to several years. So advertising is that diversification piece. It gets you that instant visibility. So I'm talking specifically about leveraging the two and finding a mix that works well for your business. So Dan, whether that's PPC or Google local services, maybe it's more display ads, brand awareness tactics, that kind of stuff.
So digital and non-digital.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I get for me, I always feel like, especially as a, if you're a smaller operator, there's always this tension, right? I mean, if you go back to traditional marketing, there's this idea that you need a brand, you need to get your name out, people need to know who you are, and all of which I agree with, right? The issue that I struggled with early on, and to this day I still struggle with, I certainly don't want to come across as we're some massive company because we're not, um, is this need to generate leads, um, and trying to get as many as those possible with what I can spend, because we all know, and I say we all, at least I would assume that we all know, Dan is all knowing. However, um, if we look at branding per se, and I can't tie dollars back to sales. How do you guys manage that? Like, what do you recommend? Someone's new. I say they're new. They're smaller, very limited, very I just limited resources in terms of marketing, and they have to generate the leads. What would you guys recommend to someone like that? Like, how do you manage doing, obviously having more than one channel, but doing enough of one channel that you get what you need in terms of value? Because there are real numbers and there are real sales that have to happen when you're super small.
Right. I would say ground zero, start with a marketing budget, come to your marketing partner with a budget in mind, or work with them to find out what that is, because your budget's going to determine what platforms make sense for you. We can assess pay-per-click in your market and determine, say, if you say, Janelle, I have $2,000 a month to give towards advertising as a whole. We can see how far that might stretch or not with pay-per-click, what kind of cost per lead you're looking at, and figure out if even you have enough left to consider diversifying further, investing in Google local service ads, maybe some branding. And I mean, I think the budget is the ground zero with that.
Right. So, and is that where you guys would generally start? Would you start with pay per click first, just to kind of get them some leads, or would you kind of and I realize I'm kind of in the weeds a little bit here, but just I mean, I'm really like, if I'm a listener and I'm like, hey, I have, I don't know, let's say my marketing budget is a couple $100,000 for the year, um, and then thinking through like, okay, well, what is that going to really be? Um, on the ground, boots on the ground. I mean, is that where you guys typically start, as pay per click, or would you like say, no, we need to do more direct type marketing, or what does that look like?
We typically start with a Google platform. So what that is going to be is pay-per-click and Google local service ads. Google local service ads are contingent on your business having a brick and mortar location, a Google business profile. You cannot run Google local service ads without that. So we first see if our clients have a location to work with or multiple, so we can run Google local. If you search pest control lawn care near me, you will see Google local ads very likely show up in that top spot on the results page. So we want to keep that in the mix from the jump, but
Right.
pay-per-click is also a strategy we like to employ if there's budget left and if it makes sense in the market. And what I mean by that is what kind of cost per click are you up against? I mean, not even to pay for a lead, but just to get someone to click on your ad, then be redirected to a landing page and learn more. So Google's the bread and butter. That's where most consumers today are searching, and we don't see that changing anytime soon. So that's where we're starting.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
both of you came up with, and maybe it was just examples, but Janelle, you had said, well, if you have a couple thousand a month, and then Donnie said, well, if you have a couple 100,000 a year, is couple thousand a month even enough to get started? I mean, years ago, yes, but like if you're a, if well, let's say we're a five-person company, right? Maybe three technicians. We're trying to add another half a route, so we want, I don't know, another two or 300 clients this year or customers this year. What should our budget be?
So I think I want to say your organic performance and ranking should have a place in that conversation, because you might not need to advertise as aggressively if you have a lot of backlinks to your business and you have a strong authority tied to your URL or your domain, and you're ranking well in that map section, organic listings. So that, I think, should be in the conversation of how much should I put into advertising. But in terms of a budget, I'm afraid I can't speak to that too granularly, but what I will say is, to start, I see most clients hover around at least 1 to 2,000 a month, and 1,000 tends to be that bare minimum to give us some groundwork or footing in at least one ad platform.
Gotcha.
Mm.
Gotcha. Um, well, let's talk a little bit about, I mean, those are different channels. I mean, I mean, I have a quick question. This is kind of a little bit out of the box, but you talked about Google being the bread and butter, and I 100% agree with that. Um, are people starting to, are they starting to optimize for AI? I mean, like, how are they using, I know for me personally, I watch what my kids do, and they're not using Google. I mean, legitimately, like, they are all over about Chat GPT. They're using Chat GPT for search now. And maybe my kids are weird, and they probably are, and I love them, and we're all weird, right? But I mean, the fact is that, oftentimes, even shopping now, they're kind of going there to get them started and get them going. Is there any move in the industry that you've seen towards an AI type channel? I mean, I know that Google is integrating more and more AI into their search, but Is there any thought there, or is something that like a pest owner can do? Is there, as far as like optimizing for that yet? Is the industry not there quite yet, or what is happening there as far as that being its own channel? I guess is the question. Does that make sense?
Yes, we did just have a webinar on this topic. So for those listening who haven't checked that out, can't say the exact title, but it was very recently, and it has AI in the title, but we go through this at length. But in short, if you have a website that's optimized for Google and you have helpful context, plenty of keywords within your content, that's already the ground zero. AI is pulling, these tools are pulling information and answers for consumers from websites. So that's a part of the mix. And the other strategy that we're recommending business owners consider and employ is getting their business name mentioned across the web as much as they can. So that's through a local listing like Better Business Bureau or Yelp or any place outside of Google, or sorry, not outside of Google, but outside of your website, getting your business mentioned as many times as possible, because AI is pulling not just from your website, but all across the web. So that is how that's coming into play. Our clients are being pulled into the top of that results page, hopefully by providing helpful context that AI can pull from. As far as is it a big source on its own? Not yet. We are tracking leads and traffic that come from ChatGPT, for example, and it is so minimal at this point for our clients that it's not enough to report on. But that's not to say we don't see that changing, because AI is only going to become increasingly relevant, in my opinion.
Right, right. So let's talk a little bit about the next point, which, we talk about this, mistakes, right? The idea behind this podcast is biggest marketing missteps that we have. And so the first one is an over-reliance on one channel. And then the second one is overlooking digital competitors and then differentiation from this. And I actually have a story about this. I knew for Triangle for years, our differentiation was same day service. And we were in a meeting about 5 years ago. And I mean, it was everywhere, right? It's all over our websites, all of our trucks, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, everyone does this now. So why are we even talking about it?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is not even a thing anymore. But so do you want to just talk us through like why you feel like this is one of the biggest marketing missteps and then what you can do about it?
Yeah, I mean, Dan said it, marketing's expensive. And so you're paying a lot of money just to get people to see your brand. And in my opinion, you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not captivating them once they finally get there. Once you spend all this time and money getting them to your website or to an ad. And there's a lot of overlap in unique value propositions with lawn and pest companies. I'm sure if you searched pest control or lawn care near me in your market and you looked at the competition, a lot of them would be promoting the same things. Like you said, Donnie, same day service, satisfaction guarantee, no contracts, servicing within 24 hours. It goes on and on, but there's a lot of overlap. And so I just think when we're talking about maximizing your marketing dollars, how could you not also sit down and define how you can separate yourself from the bunch and constantly assess that?
Yeah, yeah. And for our listeners, there are tons of tools out there, specifically AI tools, where you can keep a pretty good handle on what's going on with your competitors. And obviously, we're not gonna take the episode that direction, but maybe we'll put some links up on the website. But there are tools out there that can look at your competitor's website. They can monitor pricing. They can monitor strategy. They can monitor content. I mean, it's just insane the amount of data that you can get on your competitors. And listen, at the end of the day, you don't build a business looking at competitors, right? It's more about knowing what the market is. And then the other part is how are you different, right? And what makes you different as a result of those competitors. Sometimes I talk to people and they get overly crazy about what their competitors do, and they completely forget about the whole idea behind their business, which is offering value to their customers, and all they want to do is just compete. And it's like, well, that doesn't create a business. But in any case, yeah, I mean, anything else you want to add about overlooking, digital competitors, like as far as a misstep, anything that we're missing, anything else you want to bring up about that, or you think we got it?
Aside from just trying to position yourself in a way different from other competitors, I would say in my opinion, the most simplest, overlooked tool in your toolbox is branded photos. I can't tell you how many clients overlook this or just don't want to put the time into it. And I get it. It's hard to measure. Okay, if I put branded photos on my websites or my website, my ads, that will result in this many more leads or customers, or this will improve my conversion rate by X%. It's not very measurable, which is why I think it's probably not prioritized or why it's overlooked. But consumers are so much more likely to trust and engage with your brand if you have a face, if you're showing the folks who they might be working with or what the service might look like. So I just wanted to say, whether it's hiring a freelancer or someone in your team being interested enough to pick up a camera and snap some photos, that could really maximize what you're already doing with your
Yeah.
marketing.
Yeah. No,
So when you say a freelancer, so you're looking to go out and get a video team or still photos, just somebody to come spend the day and take some snaps, and then you'll put that on videos and YouTube and on your website. And that is that provide SEO or not really? It's just more the familiarity, as you said.
More the familiarity and establishing a strong brand presence. I will say with videos, that's always delicate, always something you want to chat with your marketing partner about, because those can slow your website load time. It can make your website a bit more sluggish, which does affect your ranking and performance. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do that, would you have a YouTube channel and then just link to that, or does that?
You could, or place
Okay.
maybe just a few videos throughout your website where it makes sense, but at the very least, photos. And I know, Donnie, you did this, what seems like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, a photo shoot, kind of a one day or just a few days where you went through and
We just got done doing another round, like we just literally last week, and we had snacks and treats, and oh my gosh, Camille, who's our social media person, she has this amazing studio that she set up here in our building. But yeah, we did the same thing. Yeah, I mean luckily I'm in a place now where we have a little staff that can handle that, but you don't have to do that, right? In fact, I would say you tread carefully with this, because sometimes people get over the top and everything has to be perfect. And it's like, whip out your phone. It's an iPhone, take a picture, and remember the don't get lost, in the forest before the trees, right? Just realize, like, okay, we just need to get our photos out. And I'm not saying don't make it professional. I don't know. Sometimes, like, these photo marketing people, like, they're over the top with like how
Hmm.
sophisticated, like, and it's like a $5,000 deal. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, don't just take a freaking picture. Like, anyway, so I'm digressing. I'm sorry. Anyway,
Yep.
moving
Yep.
on.
So the next one is kind of an interesting one for me because, they come, I guess you're seasonal, but inconsistent review generation. So when you say inconsistent, I would imagine the natural, if you don't push the reviews, you're doing a ton of business in April and May because it's swarm season. You're going to get more reviews. And then gets hot in July and August and business levels off, you get less. And then maybe in the fall, even less in the winter. So how do you build your review machine? And is it seasonal or does it have to be seasonal?
Go ahead.
there
Let
are.
Janelle go first.
I just have to say this. I know I mentioned that I think photos is such an easy, and brand positioning is an easy thing to overlook and something that all these business owners and stakeholders should consider. But this might be a bit dramatic, but I'm just going to say it. I think review generation is the most overlooked area, missed blind spot, if you will, across our client base from what I've seen. And it's not that they don't have enough reviews. It's not that they've overlooked this entirely, but maintaining a consistent effort and getting reviews constantly and weekly and monthly, ones that are positive, that have keywords within them, that is something that should be prioritized because it, of course, affects people's impression of your brand, but it affects your ranking, not only organically, it's a factor organically, but it affects your local service ads too. So I've seen clients with a big budget for Google local service ads, and I've seen us pull all the stops and we have the right setup, and they still are showing below competitor A and competitor B. And the only piece that we can connect is that our clients has, say, a 4-star rating and maybe a couple hundred reviews, and the competitor A and B, those guys have thousands of reviews and maybe a 4.5 or 4.8 star rating. So it's a gap, it's a blind spot, it's something that could plug a hole, so to speak, or a leak in your marketing.
Mhm.
I want to add a little bit to this because if you're listening to this and you've not been consistent at review generation, there are tons of solutions out there, and this is one of those things where you just need to turn it into a system and manage it. Probably about 2 years ago, we we really started paying attention to this, and it's not difficult. It just needs to be part of your. I mean, for us, it's a system now. It's managed pretty well. I mean, and we went from having 1,000 reviews to now we got over 13,000 in just the Raleigh market. And so the reality of it is, and I say 13,000, I'm talking about across all pieces here, not just like if you go, someone goes to my one listing, they're gonna be looked at. I thought he doesn't have 13. No, we don't, but the collective we do. So my point here is that the
Little
facts.
fake news.
Yeah, a little fake news. If you go to one
Attaboy.
specific listing, no, it's not going to show that many, but the collective, it will. And so what I'm saying here is this: is that I agree with Janelle on this. It's like the consistency is what matters. And if I were to add anything at all, it's if you see that you're getting great reviews and you're kind of feeling good about yourself, it is one indicator of where your customer experience is, right? The other part of that is your cancel rate. So sometimes people look at their reviews and they think, oh, we're just doing amazing, and that's true, right? Maybe on the first service, because that's when people are typically going to review your business, is right off the first service. Once they become a regular customer, the time that they were going to review after that is they're really super ticked off at you, right? I mean, let's just be real. I mean, or something happens where I don't know, you save their baby or something like that. But they're not going to typically review you on the fifth service, right? So what it can set up is just kind of this false narrative where you're thinking, man, look at all these great reviews we got, and meanwhile you've got these cancels out to yin yang, and so yes, you're good on the first service, but the long term you're not doing that great. And so if you don't have some sort of system that's integrated in with your software that's automatically reaching out, um, get it, because there's tons of solutions out there that offer that, and I couldn't agree
So
more.
what you're suggesting though is that because I use a one of our clients in Florida, and we have regular service, and I kind of find it a pain in the neck because they're constantly texting me and trying to get me to review them, and I'm like, I've already reviewed you. Why do you keep doing this?
Hmm.
Um, I guess if they, because he's a client, I don't mind. But if he kept doing that, I'd probably block him. So is there a
That's going to
right
happen.
amount, or
I don't,
like don't keep going at it after every single service if you're on like every other month.
well, there's not going to be. And by the way, I'm not meaning to step on here, Janelle. I'm obviously give you a chance to chat. This is what I understand from it. Um, there's not going to be that great of an opportunity if you've already gone on Google. But listen, if you were a client of us and you've already gone on Google, but you're not gone on Facebook yet, I might ask you for that.
Hmm.
I'd be okay with that. And you may not like it, and that's okay. But I would continue. I mean, at the end of the day, I already know as an owner, the biggest chance I've got for you writing a review is right after that first service. And so that's where I'm really going to focus. And it turns out if I need a different platform, like if I wanted you to go to Facebook or something else, I would just change our system so that it directs you there first.
Hmm.
I mean, there's the long game that you play, but you're right. I mean, it does become kind of annoying after a while if people just continue to keep asking, but it doesn't make me stop.
Right. No, I just, like I said, I get it all the time, and I'm just like, oh boy. And I
Yeah,
wonder how his other clients feel about it. He does
yeah,
great work and whatnot, but okay.
yeah.
Next one. No feedback loop between marketing and sales. That's a big bugaboo with Donnie, I know, and he's been
Oh
talking
man,
about that
yeah,
since
yeah,
forever.
yeah. Knock yourself out there, Janelle. Walk us through it. Why is this the biggest misstep?
So we, as your marketing partner, we can track the leads that are coming in, compare volume year over year, what cost you're paying. It ends there. We don't know what we don't know. And what I mean by that is, what was the after effect? What was the result? What was the quality like of the leads that we were bringing in? And how well did they convert into sales? And in client success in this seat, you would think that I would chat more with folks on the sales team, but I really seldom chat with people who are on the front lines and chatting with customers, hopefully turning them into, sorry, potential customers, and hopefully turning them into customers. And I just think it's a big gap, because there are stops and levers that we can pull if we have certain insight from our clients. So, hey, Janelle, in the month of, I don't know what month we're in, in the month of May, I had a lot of out of service area leads come through. And I don't know where they're coming from, but we paid for them. They're out of my market. What can you do? Okay, where were those from? What zip codes and cities? Give me the list. From there, we can proactively exclude them moving forward in pay-per-click ads through something called negative targeting. We can look at our maps in Google local services, or the areas that we're targeting, and figure out why we might have captured some fluff in there, and give a few other strategies too. And I'm happy to go a bit deeper, but basically, if you're not connecting your salespeople or what's coming in after the fact back with your marketing agency, so closing the loop, I think you're missing an opportunity to maximize your marketing dollars.
What is negative? What did you just call that?
Negative targeting.
Yeah, negative targeting.
Oh, Dan, you know this one. You know this one. Like a
By
good
a
example
different
of this.
name, or
Yeah, I mean, like an example of this would be, and this has been the massive frustration in Google is, hey, I offer lawn services. Great. When you guys come out and mow my lawn, right? That's a negative. Like, no, we don't. We do fertilization and weed control, but we don't do mowing and splitting things like that out. I mean, I'm assuming that's what you meant when you were saying that.
do you find that that's when I talk to my lawn care clients, like the pest clients don't have that issue or whatever, but landscaping covers a huge, your build design, your maintenance, your lawn mowing. And then, most of our clients are fertilization people, and they don't want all those other things. But when somebody Googles them, those are some of the leads, like Donnie said, to come out and mow my lawn. How do you get rid of that?
So we can exclude any mowing searches. So if someone searches for a service and they include the word mowing, we can add that to a list in pay-per-click ads, where automatically we won't show up. Our client's business won't show up on the results page. But the tricky part about that is search intent. Someone might search lawn care, and then when they pick up the phone to call you, they mention mowing, and that doesn't match their intent. They thought lawn.
Or they thought that lawn care meant mowing. I get you.
So that's where we can get ahead of it, but it is always a challenge, and it's an unfortunate one for our lawn care clients.
And I mean, it does happen in pests too. I mean, if you don't do example like wildlife and those types of things, and so it's just making sure that you filter out things that you don't really do, because if you pay for them, I don't know. In a lot of cases, I feel like it's just as much money to chase that stuff down than it is to pay for it, if that makes sense. Like, for example, if you have a negative keyword or a negative, like, you need to clean those things out, because chasing it down and trying to get your money back and all that other stuff that goes with it, it's just like, okay, just find it real quick and then get rid of it, because otherwise you're going to go in circles and just spend a ton of money.
Well, one of the things that we see in cooler weather states where you have, in lawn care, the selling season's pretty quick, 10, 12 weeks. And then all of your leads are mowing, right? The only time you're getting a lawn care one is if their vendor screwed up. But, but people still leave that to pay-per-click on. And is it really worthwhile to do that? Or just turn it off, wait till next year,
Right. Yeah, it's a great question. But I mean, listen, to Janelle's point, I mean, this whole idea of creating a loop between marketing and sales, I think it's critical because you just need to understand, obviously you can turn on the faucet and have a ton of leads coming in, but if you're not able to convert them or your conversion rate's going down, ultimately, less is more in those cases, meaning that, I would much rather have 20 leads that I can sell than 100 leads that I can't. It doesn't, the number itself, sometimes people get in their silo and they're like, oh, we're killing it. And really they're not, overall for the business. And so that's the part that you have to make sure that there's a connection there. And it seems easy and straightforward until it's not, because you start digging into details. You're like, oh, wow. So, all right, we're getting here to the end. Let's finish out real quick. So Janelle, of all these fixes, which do you feel like is the easiest or the most immediate, something that people can do right away? And then, of course, if they want to learn more, obviously, how to reach out to you guys and to just get an evaluation, I'm assuming, or in this case, actually, I'm going to take that back. Go to the podcast website, or no, go to Coalmarch/podcast. That way you get your month free and we can get our bean counting done. And so can you just walk through like what are the easiest fix and most immediate? And then after that, we'll finish out.
Review generation. Build trust with consumers and Google, because Google's looking for it just as much as consumers are. Google has an agenda, and that's to show a trustworthy, relevant result to the searcher. And if you aren't viewed that way, you're going to have such a harder time showing up in the spots that matter most. So review generation, I'm no business owner, but I think that's the easiest one to approach out of all four that we reviewed today. And that's what I would leave with. Just try to get a system in place. And use AI too. We've talked about that just briefly, like collaborate with an AI tool, give some info about your business, how you operate, and mention that you need some ideas on how to generate reviews. I mean, that aside from networking, I think there's a lot of ways to implement a strategy quickly in this area.
Right.
Good deal. Now, Donnie, you're about to ask me if I have anything to add, and I will.
I am.
Yeah. If you want to contact Janelle and get your free month, it's coalmarch.com/podcast, not podcasts, Coalmarch, whatever you just said before. So anyway.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Dan corrected me. So there you go. That's awesome.
Okay.
So Janelle, thank you for coming on board and talking us through. I think our audience is going to get quite a bit from just understanding, obviously we learn from the mistakes of others. It's much better than learning from our own mistakes, I think, in many, many cases. But appreciate you coming out. We obviously appreciate Coalmarch as a partner. We appreciate you guys' sponsorship. And I know a lot of our listeners use you guys. And so just grateful to have you in the industry. Just a reminder that all the resources and topics that we talked about today is available on the podcast website. Go over to pmpindustryinsider.com. Take a look under show notes. And we will link up this episode as well as some of the tools and resources that we talked about. We always appreciate, speaking of reviews that you could leave for the podcast. Of course, if they're positive, they're not, we ask you to pass those on to Dan because he loves complaining and people in general being upset at him. And with that, we're going to sign off. We'll see you all next time. Take care.